I'm back, and this is the Christian Book Club, and I'm going to do one more part of the book, and then I'm going to go home. So this chapter I'm on is number 4. So it's called Knowing the Seal of Emotions. So seal of emotions. So Proverbs 4:23 says, "Keep your heart with all diligence. Keep your hearts with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life." That is Proverbs 4:23. So what does it mean by seal? So understanding your seal of emotions. So seal is an acronym that explains this process by describing the situations that trigger your emotions, which then lead to consequences that occur right afterward and again later on. So the seal, basically there's a picture here, and the seal is abbreviated for situation, emotions, later on and afterwards. So that's seal. Situation, emotions, later on, afterwards. So a trigger would be the S. So a trigger refers to the situations, and then E refers to the emotions, and then A refers to the short term, and then L refers to the long term. So S refers to situation. Your emotions always occur in the context and are triggered by events, both internal and external. So remember, emotions, how are they triggered? By internal and external events that happen in your life. Even when it doesn't feel that way, that's what happens. So external triggers always involve something in one's environment, whereas internal triggers include internal events such as thoughts. So external, basically, if you get triggered, it's by the external things that are going on in the environment that you're in. And the internal are your thoughts that may trigger, not by anything outside. So all those could include how you feel after drinking a cup of coffee. So the internal is something like you feel after drinking coffee, or standing up too fast, or feeling your heart skip. So other examples of a external triggered situation maybe includes receiving negative feedback from a boss, receiving bad news about a loved one, or hearing about and then violent crime in your area. So there's another picture here. It says emotional experience and trigger. So it gives the emotional experience is anxiety, and maybe the anxiety gets triggered by one of these things I say. So anxiety maybe gets triggered by not hearing back from your teenager after expecting a texting. So maybe your teenager or your something, or maybe your friend goes out and you don't hear back and you haven't heard a text. So anxiety starts to trigger because that is the emotional experience. Receiving an email to meet with your boss. So maybe you have an anxiety or maybe the trigger, you're gonna have to meet with your boss, and maybe the anxiety is that maybe you're worried that you might be fired, or maybe something bad. And then sadness, depression. So receiving bad news, of course, every time we receive bad news, of course we're going to be sad. Hearing certain songs. So of course hearing songs can cause sadness. Let's see, fear. Your home alarm systems being triggered. Seeing a fight. Hearing gunshots. Panic. Feeling trapped. Having too much caffeine. Panic. A lot of caffeine can make you panic. Uncomfortable physical situations that happen out of the blue. Anger. Being caught out of traffic. Being criticized by a loved one. So it doesn't say being criticized by a friend, being criticized by a stranger, but you might feel a lot of anger when you get criticized by somebody you love, because that criticism is going to be a lot more stronger if you get criticized by your sister or your brother or your mom compared to getting criticized by a friend or a stranger. Disgust, seeing a foreign object in your food, seeing something immoral on TV. So, well, some people don't care about that one, I guess, especially the disgust. I mean, if I see something immoral on TV or something immoral, I think it's disgusting, but some people don't even care if it's immoral at all. They don't have any disgust about it. Any disgust doesn't make them sick at all. They don't care what kind of immoral stuff they watch on TV. It's like a blank space in their mind. Whatever stuff immoral they hear, there's no disgusting feeling in their thoughts. Shame, someone expressing disappointment in your behavior. So of course, shame, well, some people might. It depends on the person, how much disappointment they might show in your behavior. I guess it varies on the kind of person they are. So E refers to your emotions. So how emotions have three parts, like in the other chapter. The three parts were thoughts, physical, and behaviors. Those were the three parts in the last chapters. So external and external events can trigger your emotions. So this is where we become skilled at labeling our emotions and putting them into three-part model. So for example, if you remember the situation that triggered whatever, for example, remember the things that triggered your emotions. Maybe, let's see, so parts of an emotion. Okay, so E refers to your emotions. A refers to what happens afterwards. Your emotional response always has short-term consequences. So your emotional response always has short-term consequences. Blah, blah, blah. So how we respond to negative emotions is typically the issue rather than the emotion. So how we respond to negative emotion is typically the issue rather than the emotion itself. So we often respond to these emotions in ways that make us feel better afterward, but makes us feel worse later. So sometimes we want to do something that will make us feel better after the emotion, but instead it's going to make us feel worse in the end. Blah, blah, blah. Where is it? So the next part is L refers to what happens after, or what happens later on. And that's the last point. I'm going to read Proverbs 4:7 tells us, wisdom is not the practical thing, therefore get wisdom, in all you're getting, get understanding. So yeah, that's the last point. Pretty much is the seal emotion. So remember the seal of emotion. S, trigger. E, emotions. A, short term. L, long term. And remember that we all have emotional experiences, but when you do have emotional experiences, remember those triggers so you can not get triggered again. Yep, and that's about it. God is good all the time, and I'm out.